and they did this intense stare down. And Izzy was like, yeah, look at me, you know, did the whole stare down. And hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Corner Flag. And if it's your first time here, please do like, subscribe, and share, and let's get the community growing, guys. It won't take a second, right? So you won't die. But as you know, today we are talking MMA and UFC 290 specifically. And guys, what a night! I can't tell you. Oh my God! Wow! Right? Like, it was crazy, guys. It was crazy. We saw new champions in there. We saw upsets, major upsets in there, and we saw some controversial moments in there as well. So I think it was an entertaining night all around. Everybody was there, probably got their money's worth. We did see some interesting fights. I think we saw Moreno in there. He lost his belt, unfortunately, but he put up a good fight also. It was, for me, probably, you can put it in there for fight of the night. If it didn't win fight of the night, then it probably wouldn't have been the fight of the night for me as well. So that was pretty crazy. We also saw Cameron Simon. So now we're talking about African contingent, which is what we do over here on this channel, always, you know. But Cameron Simon, of course, the other South African that's making waves in the UFC and the bantamweight division. It was really interesting. It was really interesting to see the type of fight that he had today. He's always really been very good, like with his hands and technically with the kickboxing and with his stand-up. But today was a bit of a messy and grueling and grimy sort of fight, right? He went a lot more with the grappling, or forced into the grappling actually, because his opponent, I believe it was Mitchell, he saw tried in there with the jabs in the pocket, and he saw that, couldn't really hang with someone in the pocket like that, right? So he decided to go with the wrestling, which was what most of the fight was about. And it was really interesting for me to see that, and why it is interesting for me to see this was because Dricus Duplessis did this too, funny enough, later on in the night, right? And on the same day they did this, right? As soon as these guys get taken down, the first thing they go for is the guillotine, right? So I don't know if that's like more so of like defensive wrestling, so that you can mess with your opponent. The threat of you're about to get choked out while you're trying to take me down is not one that too many people are good at dealing with. So he went with the guillotine, got himself out of trouble there, and that's when he was being taken down. And this is Simon that we're talking about, right? So they took him down, went for the guillotine, scrambled a little bit, right? Got top position, then he started wailing on the guy, and then scrambled a little bit more. It was a very grappling heavy fight. I think we did see a good side of Simon, because I think the perspective on him was always that he's a good, well-rounded fighter, but as soon as you put him in there with a wrestler or somebody who's better at grappling than him, then he's gonna struggle, and from the looks of it, it looked like his opponent was more so primarily a wrestler, which is why he I guess decided to go with the takedown to begin with. So it was quite interesting to see how Simon dealt with that. He got the win, obviously. Definitely with the grappling, doing a lot of sprawls on the ground. It was a messy fight, it was a messy fight, but eventually you got the guy on his belly, and if you're on your belly and your opponent is on your back, you're always in trouble. So obviously Simon pursued to wail on the guy and get his what is it, his third or fourth, I believe it's his third or fourth win in the UFC. Still undefeated in his MMA career, so that's really cool. Bright prospect Simon is. I do think it would be great if he had a lot of hype, a lot more hype behind him. But the bantamweight division is quite stacked, so it's quite interesting to see the trajectory of his career and where he'll go, because there's some monsters in that division. There's some definite monsters in that division. So it was great. It was great for him to open up with a win for the South African contingent going over to the UFC. And then of course later on we had Dricus Duplessis fighting Whittaker. And let me tell you guys, prior to the fight, everybody And I mean, everybody. I don't think there was a social media site I went to, or an interview that I saw, or some YouTuber or whatever that gave Dricus the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I believe he was like a 4-1 underdog before the match started. So that was some hectic odds against Whittaker there. I mean, even the MMA pros pick, where we saw a lot of other MMA fighters giving their picks there, everybody thought that Whittaker was absolutely going to demolish and whitewash Dricus Duplessis. And to some degree, I feel like a lot of us had that fear though, because Whittaker's dangerous, man. Like he provides a different danger to Adesanya in the fact that he's dangerous because he's very well rounded, right? He's very good with the stand up, but he's very good on the ground too, So I think it was very interesting to see how well Dricus sort of like dead on the ground. Like he hung with Olympic level wrestler that is Robert Whittaker. That is amazing, guys. I don't think that's any small feat by any margin, And we saw him go in there first round. Yeah, the first round, it was an interesting round because I think it went how we all thought it might go, in the sense that Robert Whittaker was more technical. He was a lot cleaner, right? He fought his outside fight and really hopping in, and he does this wide stance style. He's constantly hopping, so he hops in and he hops out, and he's not always easy to catch. So that's the one thing that I think gave Dricus a little bit of trouble. So the hopping out thing, clinical with the punches, the 1-2s as well. But Dricus, to his benefit, like he counters a lot. Like if you come in and then you try to charge in, the first thing he's gonna try and do is throw 1 or 2 back, And it's a good thing that he has a granite chin, because he did take some shots from Whittaker as well, especially in the opening stages. And I think he really experienced a lot more success, I'd say, when he made the fight a little bit active, So if it's an all-out brawl in the middle and these guys are wailing at each other, then Dricus was getting a lot more success that way. But as soon as they started doing the whole outside fight, the technical boxing, kickboxing fight, I would say Whittaker was having the better of the exchanges on that front. And then Whittaker took him down, right? And I think that was the thing that we're all looking for. Like, okay, cool, what's going to happen as soon as he gets taken down, because Whittaker's so great on the ground. And as I said earlier, the same thing with Simon. As soon as Whittaker went after him, first thing he does to get himself out of trouble is go for the guillotine, right? Went for the guillotine, scrambled a lot more, and he held his own on the ground to his credit. I'm not gonna lie. I think with Dricus, the scary thing is he keeps getting better and better with each fight, and with the nostril thing as well. He did say that he has a lot more cardio. I would say he looked a lot better. He didn't look quite as gassed as he did in his previous fights. So that was quite interesting to see. So how it started. First round, Whittaker, he started off the round a little bit better, but at the end of the round, Dricus was on top of him on top mount and absolutely wailing at him. Caught him with a nasty elbow, got Robert Whittaker bleeding as well. So by the time the bell rang and it's the end of the round, then Dricus is in a dominant position. So even though he didn't really start off too well, I think that helped him clinch the round. I think, he finished the guy, so we didn't really get to see the judges' scorecards in that case. But he probably stole that round. I think he finished that round quite strongly. And then round 2 came along, and I believe that's where we saw vintage Robert Whittaker, with the 1-2 head kick, which is the combination he's so famous for. Classic Robert Whittaker, basically, that we saw. I think maybe he decided to take Dricus a little bit more seriously because of how the first round ended, of course. And it was a really ugly fight also, I would say Robert also probably started the round off a little bit better, but as the round continued, then Dricus, that guy just has a lot of power. He's a monster. Each time he touched Robert Whittaker, he hurt him, and it was actually quite weird because the shot that dropped Whittaker initially, I believe, was a jab. It's not even a wound up jab. It kind of like caught him on the inside as he was coming in, and Robert Whittaker was on the ground, all wobbly, dazed, decided to spring up, but you could tell that he was hurt at the point in time. And Dricus could smell blood at that point, so he just came in and started wailing on the guy and chasing him across the ring. Started with the combinations, left, right, hitting him with the body shot as well, which I think was great because, if Dricus kind of like panicked and just decided to just go 100% and try to finish him with the knockout and go for the head, maybe things might have not ended up that way. But he was very clinical with how he decided to finish him. Caught him with the body shot, of course, and that's when Robert Whittaker buckled and went down to the ground, and that's where Dricus, of course, went on and went on to finish him until the referee got in between that. But wow, what an upset, guys! What an upset! I don't think anyone saw that. A lot of people are eating humble pie. A lot of people lost a lot of money in the betting as well, and I think quite a few people actually made a lot of money as soon as they bet on Dricus Duplessis as well, So now he's there, of course, we're all still in shock. I feel like we're all in shock, right? Who's expecting this? No one is expecting Dricus to win, of course, right? So we're all still in shock, of course. He's celebrating. Robert Whittaker looks distraught. He's on the ground. He's getting his face cleaned up because of all the blood and all of that. And Joe Rogan walks into the ring. Then they do the interview, right? And as soon as he does his interview, he talks and he's thanking everybody. Hey, thank you for whoever, he spoke about the haters on social media as well, and how he's gonna come for them because obviously he proved them wrong. Against all us, guys. Like, I believe at this current point in time, we all thought that Whittaker is probably the best fighter close to Adesanya, right? And he was absolutely going to wipe the floor with Dricus. So, I feel like that upset and the happiness on Dricus' face, he deserves it. So he's there and he's celebrating and he's doing his interview. And in the back walks in Israel Adesanya, right? And Israel is standing there and he's standing there. And even before that, right? Like immediately after Dricus won, then we saw Adesanya stand up and, pull a face. And you could tell like he was really, really invested in this. Like I feel like we've seen Adesanya be emotional before, but this is the first time he's been so invested in the fight and in this result as well. Because he did say that he wanted to fight Dricus Duplessis off the bat, and the UFC almost messed us up because everybody thought, hey, we're probably gonna see Adesanya versus Whittaker 3 with this. But so as soon as he won, I'm sorry guys, I'm losing my train of thought, but I was just so excited, just chilling there, and you see there that Adesanya is chilling in the background as Joe Rogan is interviewing Dricus, and at some point Dricus turns around and sees Adesanya there, and it was a very tense moment, right? Because then he walks up and Adesanya's, relax, this is my African brother, and he goes in on him and he calls him the N-word, and what's up, my African brother, what's up, my N-word, and they do this intense face off, and it almost looks like they're about to get into blows because you can see that these guys, there's legitimate friction there. I don't think this is something that's scripted, guys. I know sometimes we have to get given a good storyline to sell a fight, but this one is genuine. It was genuine, and it seemed like Adesanya was unable to control himself to some degree. He's usually very contained, and but this time he seemed very, very emotional, and he went in. And Dricus as well tried to have his comebacks and say, I'm an African, but I'm no brother of yours as well. And they did this intense stare down, and Izzy was like, look at me, did the whole stare down, and eventually Dricus, turned around, walked away, and raised his hands. But that was a very, very intense moment, guys. That was I think this is what we wanted from the start, but in hindsight, because of how things turned out, I feel like it actually turned out the way it was supposed to, because Dricus finally, I feel like he earned everyone's respect with this win. Before that, I mean, the people that he fought in the beginning, like Perez was okay, but you know, the win against him was okay, but it wasn't a very convincing win. Against Trevin Giles, he also did well. They went to war, you know, knocked him out also. But some people still felt like, you know, they weren't convinced. It was maybe a puncher's chance type of knockout. And then he went and he beat Darren Till as well. Is it Black Tavares? Who's this guy? I forget his name, but he also fought Adesanya as well. You know, that guy came in with blonde hair. When he left, he just got a hair dye and he said, look, red from all the blood that he was bleeding because of, you know, the pounding that Dricus had put on him. And then there was Derek Brunson as well, you know, one of the legendary gatekeepers in the middleweight division, and yeah, forced that dude into retirement. And after that, it was Whittaker, and Whittaker was seen as the first like legitimate, you know, proper threat, because this guy's on a win streak of his own. He's beaten the who's who of the division. You know, the only guy who he's been unable to beat basically was Adesanya. You know, so yeah, interesting fight. I think I'm just gonna break down this whole Izzy versus Dricus Duplessis situation a little bit more. We're gonna unpack it a little bit more. Because I think, you know, it's a really interesting storyline and where it comes from, and everybody has their own opinion on this, and everybody's very divided on this, and it's a very, very touchy subject, so people don't actually want to talk about it too much. So I feel like that deserves a video in its own, where we're going to just unpack a little bit this whole storyline. But that brings us to today's end of our episode. Thank you so much for coming. And yo, you know, this is the greatest thing in martial arts history. So Africa is on the map, regardless whether you're an Adesanya fan, Dricus fan. You know, the fact is Africa is in the center spot right now, and I think this is where we want it to be. So hopefully the UFC will be bringing the pay-per-view and the event to either South Africa or Nigeria. It would work either way. South Africa, the nice thing is there is UFC in South Africa, so there is an existing model and an existing organization that's operating. So I think it'll make things a lot easier on that front. But yeah, catch me in the next video. Thank you so much for coming. I'll see you again next time.